everybody, and welcome to our CI Leading the Way webinar. So today's topic, we are going to discuss background checks versus fingerprinting. And this will also be covering the comparison of what you get, what fingerprinting can miss, and the benefits of running a background investigation. So our presenters today are myself. I'm Brittany. I am a lead investigator here with Commercial Investigations. I do most of the initiating, so that's verifying your social security number, date of birth, and the spelling of the subject's name and adding your full background into that file. I also handle our staff email account, so I know I've spoken to a lot of you through that. So just a fun little fact, I currently have 2 dogs. They love to bark at everything. They were just barking at my neighbor that pulled out of their driveway across the street. So there's a good chance you will hear them this morning. So we also have Patricia. Patricia is our lead criminologist. She also has 3 dogs and a cat. She also has a child who you'll most likely see or hear during this presentation today. Next, we have Yvette.
He hasn't left.
Yvette is our lead verification specialist. Yvette has a cat named Ella. If we're lucky enough, she will jump up on Yvette's lap and you'll just see the tip of her tail. But that's about it.
She just did that during the client webinar I was on.
And we also have Rachel. Rachel's an investigator here, and she's also on the business development team. Rachel now has 3 dogs. She recently just adopted her 3rd one, who you might also hear in the background today. So now I'm going to pass it on to Yvette to get this started today.
So good morning, everybody. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit now about what you can expect from a background investigation. So again, today we're comparing background investigations to just fingerprinting only. So some information that we're going to talk about today, we have gathered from the Professional Background Screening Association. So as far as background investigations go, these are some of the things that you will get out of a background investigation. You get a high level of accuracy. We are able to identify the applicant. So we can confirm that using different things such as their date of birth, their address history, possibly a middle name, middle initials. So we're going to confirm their identity. Background investigations use sources other than databases to verify that we're getting complete records and things like that. We speak to people, we do records check via fax as well as via email. So we're not just using database searches. If the applicant wants to dispute information, the dispute process is an easy thing when you're doing a background investigation, so we can take care of that as well. The applicant screening process is protected by the Fair Credit Reporting Act, as most of you probably know. And so that's going to protect the applicant as well as the client from a compliance perspective. Background investigations are required to assure maximum possible accuracy. Again, so before reporting the information, the background investigation company is going to be sure that they have the best possible information going forward. And background screenings are tailored to provide more of a complete picture of the applicant. So you're getting possibly education verifications, employment verifications, you're speaking to references, possibly driving records. So it's going to give you more of a complete look at your applicant.
All right.
So now Patricia's going to talk about fingerprinting a little bit.
Great. So again, we got some of this information from the Professional Background Screening Association. And these are 2 things that they do share in common, fingerprinting and background investigations. They're used to screen out potential threats to vulnerable populations, as well as certain regulated industries, and that incorrect information may be disputed by an applicant. So what fingerprint has solely by itself is applicants are required to submit fingerprints and are identified solely by the existence of a fingerprint. So if there's no fingerprint, there's no information. And that's one of the things that you can kind of get into trouble with, is not every offense is a fingerprintable offense, but it still may be a reportable conviction. They can only be performed when granted access by state or federal statutes, and then screening solely on the completeness of those records in that database. And that is one of the things that we've actually run into in the past. An example of this is in Virginia criminal records database. There's hundreds of thousands of missing records. They found that hundreds of thousands of criminal records were missing from the fingerprinting database used by police to check someone's record when attempting to purchase a firearm, or employers attempting to determine applicant has criminal conviction that would disqualify them. The system only stemmed from its dependence on the fingerprints. So there were more than 750,000 criminal records missing, and in 90% of those cases, it was due to missing fingerprints. So that's somewhere where you can actually be missing a lot of information, and that was just one example. So that kind of brings me into my what fingerprinting can miss, and this is from our own experience in with our clients who have run fingerprinting. Not all arrests are convictions that are actually on fingerprinting. So sometimes you'll have arrests on there, and they're not actually reportable offenses under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. And then it doesn't always have all the disposition information. It may have an arrest, it may have a reportable conviction, but it doesn't have all of the information, whether or not they were convicted, or whether or not they, any of their sentencing information, what their probation may have been. All that information might be missing on the actual fingerprinting. There's also the difference between the state police version as well as the federal. In our case, it's Justice Center versus non-Justice Center. So Justice Center is for New York. So if you're running a Justice Center fingerprinting and you get a hit that says out of state, it doesn't give you any information on that out of state offense. It could be anywhere that the subject lived, or perhaps even visited, which is visiting is tricky, but if it's somewhere they lived, running a background check can get that complete information for you. It could also be in the federal database, which is a complete different database than other information. So federal crimes can also be convictions that are across state lines, meaning they can be mail fraud, bank fraud, that kind of fraudulent convictions, but also a lot of the times federal crimes are also anything that's committed on a military base. So that's information that you're not going to get with just fingerprinting, especially when you're using the state versus the federal. So those are some of the examples of like what you could miss, and it's really important that you have a comprehensive, you don't just rely on the fingerprinting. So I'm going to pass it over to Yvette.
So I'm just going to go through a few of the benefits of running the full background investigation. Patricia just told you some of the reasons not to just rely on fingerprinting alone. So these are some of the benefits of the full background investigation. So the data is collected and investigated, analyzed, gone through by a professional screening firm. So in the case of us here at Commercial Investigations, we use primary source verification. So that means we're going directly to the source. So we're going right to the court, we're going right to the school, employer, whatever the case may be, to get the most accurate and up-to-date information. So we're using more than one personal identifier to confirm the identity. We talked about how it's really important to confirm that you have the correct individual. So we definitely use more than one personal identifier. As many as are available to us, we use and we run through that. And when we're talking about criminal information, any criminal inquiries that we work on are always checked by at least 2 people here at Commercial Investigations, and put in a quality control system, and everything is looked at several times to be sure we're giving you the most accurate and up-to-date information. And then we talked about getting a more complete picture of your applicant. So on top of educations, if you're looking to verify a certain degree that someone has been awarded or a certain position that they held at an employment, we can also do drug testing is going to add to the information on an applicant. If they're going into a job where they need a specific professional license, verifications, we can do that. We speak to the references on behalf of the individuals, so we're actually having conversations with whether you want personal references or professional references, being someone that the individual has worked with in the past or currently. So we have conversations, and we're actually talking with these people and getting a good overall complete picture of the applicant. So those are a lot of the reasons right there that running a full background investigation is going to give you the most accurate and up-to-date information and the best look possible at the applicant. So I'm going to.
I'm going to jump in, sorry, Yvette, and just kind of to add to that. So like in the case of, like, say it's a sex offense, you're not only going to get the offense, you're going to get the conviction, the sentencing, and then we're also going to add in like a sex offender registry. So we cross-check references when it comes to criminal things. So we're going to get the full complete picture as to what happened, who the victim was, and then any sentencing information, court case information that it relates to. All right, sorry. Sorry to interrupt you there, Yvette.
No problem at all. So I just want to open it up to questions that any of you might have that we could help you out with this morning. All right, well, if nobody has any questions, I'm going to turn it over to Rachel to give you a little bit more information from us.
Like Patricia mentioned, this was some information that we pulled together from the Professional Background Screening Association. So just a short little disclaimer about written consent of the author to reproduce this. And then if you do have any questions that come to mind after our webinar, our contact information is on the screen. We can be reached at either our 800 number or our 518 number. And then also our staff account, which Brittany mentioned is monitored by her throughout the day. And then as well as our President Michelle's contact information, if you'd like to get in touch with her directly for anything, she's a really great resource as well. And thank you again for joining us today. We will be having another one next month, December 14th at about 12:30 p.m. We're going to be talking about diplomas. So diploma mills, fake diplomas, homeschool diplomas, everything about diplomas. So hope to see you guys there. And if you'd want to watch any of our previous webinar recordings, they're all on our website, and the link is also on the screen. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.